Going, not quite gone, but the future's looking bleak for Newshub.
The Broadcasting Minister says there's nothing the government could have done to help Newshub, but its owners disagree.
Plus relief for homeowners as the OCR remains unchanged, but it could be a long wait for it to drop. Tēnā tātou katoa, good evening. After providing daily news for almost 35 years, 3 looks set to lose Newshub Live at 6 and its all associated news programs, including its online news platform.
Staff were emailed this morning to prioritise their attendance at a meeting ahead of anything else they may be doing to find out about significant changes that may impact their role. At that meeting, staff were told there was a proposal to close the newsroom on June 30th. Investigations correspondent Michael Morra has the details, which could mean almost 300 staff in news will lose their jobs.
This was the first news program on 3 in November 1989.
Good evening. An Auckland man is in prison tonight after being charged with the murder of English tourist Monica Cantwell.
There have been various iterations of the brand over more than 3 decades.
Kia ora, good evening and welcome to the very first edition of Newshub Live at 6.
And today an email advising of significant changes. It was sent to staff 48 minutes before they were informed the axe was falling.
This is a terrible announcement. There is no sugarcoating it, and I wish I could be standing up here with better news.
Warner Brothers Discovery New Zealand boss Glenn Kine made the announcement.
I've been very proud to be part of this organisation and part of the newsroom. Nothing prouder, actually. Nothing will ever compare, so this is the most difficult day.
The meeting lasted an hour, then Patrick Garr made his own impromptu announcement to his workmates.
I know lots of you are frightened and sad, but you just have to remember when everything happens, once we get out of here, that you've been part of something amazing.
It was a bombshell, you know, we're TV3, we've had cuts and we've survived cuts in the past, but to lose the whole news operation and entity so entwined in the fabric of our society here in Aotearoa, it's absolutely heartbreaking.
A sentiment felt by everyone at 3. The announcement at the meeting this morning was completely out of the blue and utterly devastating for myself and all of my colleagues in news. Many of us have worked together for decades. Management says there will be an opportunity for feedback on the proposal, although most I've spoken to don't believe that will change anything. You're inviting feedback and you'll listen to that. Will it change anything?
Has the potential to, of course.
Most staff I've spoken to don't believe that. What do you say to that?
And look, I fully expect that position, of course.
Kine says he will listen to proposals to keep the newsroom operating, including from external partners. He found out about the plan to possibly cut the news operation in late January. Do you feel that you've waited a bit late to inform staff of this?
Well, I think the process that the organisation went through was one of evaluation. It wasn't a course of action at that point in time.
Head of Asia Pacific for Warner Brothers Discovery, James Gibbons, told staff the news operation was no longer financially viable amid a massive decline in advertising revenue and the economic downturn.
It's a loss-making operation and we couldn't see how that was going to turn around. Therefore, we proposed this option to be considered.
Hundreds of workers are impacted.
It's about 75% of the workforce.
But you must have a number, an estimate. Like
well, if you plus minus that 75%, then it's closer to the sort of 300 level.
Mark Jennings was news boss at 3 for 22 years and says it's a huge blow to democracy.
I thought there would be some trimming. Obviously the business is losing a lot of money, so it's got to be slimmed down. But to shut the whole news operation, boy, that is really big and is a big blow for the country.
Eric Young was also at 3 when it all began.
What was first 3 National News, then became 3 News, then became Newshub, is part of my DNA. You know, I've been in this building since 1989.
A building that likely won't be broadcasting news by the end of June, like it has done for 34 years.
Well, kia ora, Michael. Look, this is not the story that we thought we would be covering today. We're all feeling it. How is everyone in the newsroom coping?
Yeah, well, look, Sam, certainly wasn't the story I anticipated covering today, but look, I think everyone is still, it's all sinking in for people. It's certainly, the news is still sinking in for me, and I think the most difficult part of all of this is that we're all mates here at 3. We're like a family, and so to get this news today is just devastating. We're all proud of the news service we provide, and we're passionate about news and journalism. And so today with this announcement, it was pretty shocking. You had messages to myself and my colleagues from family and friends, as well as our colleagues in other news media outlets like Stuff, The Herald, RNZ. And so it really is reverberating across the media landscape, and this will change the entire landscape of journalism in the country. And one of the pieces of feedback we just received is from legendary weatherman Jim Hickey, who emailed the newsroom to say it is devastating that one of the most accurate and non-partisan news bulletins is facing the chop. He called it brutal and unethical.
Michael Morrow there. Tēnā koe, thanks so much. Winston Peters, one of the country's biggest critics of mainstream media, has described Newshub's closure as an absolute disaster for New Zealand's democracy.
The move means state-owned TV NZ will be the only television news station. The Prime Minister confirmed today government intervention is unlikely. Here's political reporter Amelia Wade.
For decades, when disaster struck or when the clock hit 6 p.m, Kiwis have had a choice about who to turn to and who to turn on. But very soon, there will only be one.
Should the proposal go ahead, the only video news broadcast product on television screens is going to be state-owned. I think this is all going to be significantly debated. As I said, I don't think there is any bigger event in journalism.
Newshub's closure will leave TVNZ with a monopoly of mediums.
What does it mean for the state of the fourth estate and for democracy?
Well, look, I mean, the reality is that consumers are are choosing their news and their media in lots of different channels.
Well, frankly, for the 300 or so staff and their spouses and their family, this is an absolute disaster. But it's also a disaster for this country's democracy.
Arguably the party that is the media's biggest critic.
And not some woke program supported by the other side.
What media?
Today became its advocate.
A critical part of any democracy and free society is a fourth estate, an independent fourth estate. And I'm concerned about where we're going now.
The Broadcasting Minister, though, seemed less concerned.
Now they have one choice. Are you comfortable with that?
Well, there's Sky as well. There's a whole lot of other medias about.
And a government bailout seems off the cards.
I think it's highly unlikely, because essentially what I've said before is that there has been massive change in consumer habits and how media is being consumed.
Since its beginning, Newshub and 3 News has fought for its life and long asked the government for help.
It was a priority. We didn't get to it. In the end, it would have been good perhaps if we had settled that.
There are support mechanisms. Nearly every country internationally, democracy, supports its media.
There's now going to be, a significant national debate on the back of the news today around the role of media in New Zealand and journalism in particular, and what do those policy settings need to be so that there aren't ongoing events such as this.
The Minister responsible for Crown-owned entities has asked for advice about what role TVNZ played in Newshub's demise.
I don't think it helps for the government to try and run 2 TV stations, but it should be ensuring there's a level playing field.
He says today's news could mean a shake-up.
It may well mean that they have to make a return on equity, just like every other business in New Zealand is required to do.
It's not just Newshub which has been struggling to survive, it's been all media. Their latest hopes are pinned on a proposal to make internet and social media giants pay for the news that they use.
But our ability to continue to do this work is in grave peril. Journalism is in a fight for its life against the most powerful and profitable companies that have ever existed.
Half of our broadcasters have lost their jobs. Half the journalists have lost their jobs. So the digital bargaining bill is really important.
The government has been lukewarm on the idea and continues to be.
I have spoken to Glenn Keane last night, and he actually told me that that would have not made a single bit of difference. Warner Brothers Discovery has never actually reached out for assistance. It's not something that they felt that was helpful. I don't think there's anything that we could have actually done to actually assist them.
Newshub can reveal Warner Brothers Discovery does not agree with the minister's version of events.
Yeah, absolutely not true. So there are two parts to that statement. The first part around there was nothing that could happen. We were specifically talking about cordia relief. We were talking about the proposed Google Facebook Digital Bargaining Act. And my comments to her were that neither of those things are in place right now, and neither of them would address the scale of the revenue drop that we've had in the market that we talked about today.
The last entry in Lee's diary in December was a meeting with WBD executives.
It is actually a structural issue. It's a company that actually felt that their business model wasn't actually working.
A broken business model, perhaps, but a service so critical to democracy.
Amelia joins us now. Kia ora, Amelia. So has the minister responded?
Yeah, I just got off the phone with the Broadcasting Minister, who has clarified that she misspoke. She says that she meant that Warner Brothers Discovery didn't specifically ask for financial assistance. But what to do about the media has just become an urgent problem for the government, though Melissa Lee seems reticent to pump in more government funding, saying it's important as the fourth estate that it stands on its own. But with one of the big pillars of the fourth estate collapsing today, it certainly feels like a dark day for democracy.
Amelia, tēnā koe.
The return of semi-automatic guns is on the table as the government